Hey everyone, welcome back to ASM Track Tips. My name is Tomo Gorman, and today we're talking about Putnam Park Road Course. It's 1.8 miles essentially. It's 10 corners in Greencastle, Indiana. And to me, this is the epitome of a club track. You can go here, you can have a ton of fun lapping, you can not take a lot of risks, you can learn a little bit and go home having had a great day. In general, this track is very high speed, it's pretty narrow, and it is a lot of fun to drive. So let's jump into some tips. So here's our track map of Putnam Park Road Course. Fairly simple layout, but this track is so much fun, so much speed and momentum, and actually really high speed by average as well. So we're starting on the front straightaway, start finish line way back here, but this straightaway is huge. It gives you a lot of speed down into turn one. And it actually kind of undulates up and downhill quite a bit. And through the braking zone, or towards the braking zone, I should say, as you're off to the left side of the track, it's pretty significantly downhill as we come towards turn one here. For slower cars, if you're under maybe 110, 115 miles an hour top speed, you can brake all the way down at the one board, where there are often a 3-2-1, maybe even a 4-3-2-1 on your left. Faster cars, if you're closing in on 130, 140 miles an hour, will have to brake sooner than that. But either way, once you've identified your braking zone, for any car really, the one board is your turn-in point to try to carry your speed through turn one. And even though the braking zone is downhill coming into turn one, it actually levels out and mildly gains just a little bit of camber as it starts to go uphill slightly towards turn two. And the goal for turn one is just maximizing as much entry speed, as much apex speed as possible. If you've done it right, you're going to be barely fighting the car to stay on track on exit. And that's only because turn two comes up so fast, you really don't need to set up for a run out of turn one. So the goal there is just maximizing the run through turn one and utilizing that little bit of uphill gain and camber gain through this last phase of the corner to your advantage. But this corner is extremely fast. So obviously the faster you go through turn one, the faster turn two is going to come up on you. So you're going to be coming through turn one off to the left side, and there's a curb on the left that runs the whole length of this short straightaway. The way I think about it is essentially this whole curb is your braking zone. So you're going to be getting on the brakes about when you get up to the curb, and you're going to be coming off the brakes when the curb goes away and turning into turn two. Now turn two actually continues to rise uphill pretty significantly as you come through the middle of the corner and then levels out towards the exit. And if you notice, it's a little bit more than 90 degrees, but in general, this whole sweep is less than 180 degrees. So turn two is really fast as well, but you have this small chute to get your wheel straight, do a little bit of braking, and then come right back off the brakes, get back to maintenance throttle, and start to power out of turn two. Two very fast corners. So having hustled the car through turns one and two, now the car is off to the left here, approaching turn three. And turn three is really just a setup opportunity to get to turn four. So I wouldn't consider it a corner in its own, but it's really an acceleration zone to get you to the braking zone and into turn four as best you can. There's a curb on the right that will go through most of the corner, ends right about here, and the goal is to get both parallel and right up next to the curb when you get to the end of turn three. So you'll have the car on the left, gently bringing the car across the middle of the track down to, again, being parallel and up against the exit curb for turn three. That will essentially have you pointed off in this direction, and that's going to have you set up really nice and open for turn four. If you drive complacently through turn three, driving straight at turn four, if you can see the difference in trajectory facing off this direction versus facing off this direction, that difference is going to be a lot of speed and comfort through turn four. So you really want to get set up to the right side of the track, get to the end of the curb here, and then as the wheel crosses center, when you turn back to turn four, you'll do a quick brake check. You're going to have to hit the brakes pretty hard because turn four is a little bit slower than what you're going to be coming in at, but you want to keep that speed up, and it's just a quick braking event right here before you come back off the pedal quickly and roll the speed into turn four. So having come into turn four, we've got our braking done, we've crossed our hands back. We're actually still going uphill. The track crests right about here, and until you reach that crest, it's going to be a little challenging to get the car to turn. As you come over the crest, it's going to rotate the car, and then finally for the second half of the corner, the car will settle down. So you want to get your braking done and have the car kind of maintenance throttle nice and steady through the beginning of the corner. Don't try to attack the corner until you feel the car crest right about here, and then let it settle in and finish off the rest of this corner. The only reason this corner has some drama to it is because of that crest, so just be patient with it, kind of feel it out. That crest can make or break turn four. Once you felt the car settle in, you really just want to keep the car nice and tight to the left side curb here until that curb starts to go away right towards the end of the corner. You can get hard on the accelerator and get off to the right to this curb that starts right about here on your track out point. Now this curb is actually pretty heavily angled, so it almost acts like a bumper when you're bowling. You can kind of get the car up to it and almost bounce off of it, but if you cross it, then you're definitely in trouble in the grass. So just kind of get up to that curb, kind of kiss it with the right side tires, and then you're going to get the car back off to the left towards turn 5. Coming up into turn 5 is actually a really deceivingly fast corner. I think even on this overhead map, you think the corner would be slower than it is, but it really rewards entry speed for me, similar to the way turn 1 does. You're going to get your braking done early and kind of flow that speed in similarly. We have braking zone 3, 2, 1. Right about the 1 is our turn-in point. So you're going to want to get your braking done before that. Maybe a little bit of trail braking, but really just focus on momentum down to the apex of turn 5. And it's okay to actually prioritize entry speed, not worry too much about exit speed, because weirdly enough, the run between the exit of turn 5 and the braking zone for turn 7 is very short. Now this looks like it's long, but you're braking almost at turn 6 for turn 7. So prioritize your entry speed for turn 5, let the car get all the way out to the curbs here. These curbs also act almost like a bumper, kind of like they did exiting turn 4, so you can get your left sides out to that, and then try to straighten out turn 6 before we get to our braking point for turn 7. So having exited turn 5, turn 6 is flat out in pretty much every car I've ever driven here. In fact, every car I've ever driven here. But again, it does set up your braking point for turn 7 because this section of track covers really, really quickly. You're going at a pretty good clip through here. So the main goal is, having come off of turn 5, you want to angle the car for a really late apex for turn 6. And if you see this straight line that my marker makes here, that's our braking zone. The more you late apex turn 6, the straighter you can actually get that braking zone for turn 7. But you're not going to be able to get to the left side of the track and then brake straight, as you can see here. That's going to put you too late on the brakes. Most cars won't be able to do that. You're going to have to brake more towards the apex of turn 6 and brake almost diagonally across the track towards your turn-in point for turn 7, almost like you can see right there. Now I would say the braking zone for turn 7 is one of the biggest challenges on Putnam Park because you are coming in so fast. It's not quite straight, and it is the slowest corner on the track as well. So you've had all of this speed the entire lap, and now you're finally slowing down for the first and really only time throughout the entire lap. So make sure you get your braking done early. You want to focus on a late apex and a good acceleration out, because this corner is really the one that you can kind of throw the lap away in by overshooting, and it certainly can lure you into braking way too late and overshooting the corner. The last tip I have here is the better you can straighten out this braking zone, obviously the later you can brake, but especially if you're in a car without ABS, you're going to want to make sure that you cater to that by braking in a straight line. Some cars are even going to have to brake right back here towards the apex of turn 6. You're going to have a little bit of angle still in the wheel and have to bend this braking zone. Just try not to rush that too much. So having gotten into turn 7, focusing on a later apex, you can use all of the track out curb right here. And then we have a little bit of a break down into turn 8, which is called Dead Bear Corner. And there are a couple of options here in turn 8 that are going to be dependent on your driving style, but more your car as well. So the first option is to set up all the way to the right and go for a single late apex by braking, kind of bringing the car to the middle of the track through the center of the corner and coming down for a late apex. The second option is to bring the car off to the right, but then angle it towards the inside of the corner, apex early almost, and then kind of V the corner off and get back down to a late apex again. Either way, you're going to get to the same point here at the exit, but what I've found is cars that are better at carrying momentum and cornering speed, maybe have a little bit more aero grip or mechanical grip, can carry this outside line in down to the late apex here better than other cars. If you have a car that is more high horsepower or maybe doesn't like trail braking or cornering nearly as much, you can definitely just kind of square this corner off by driving it deep in, pivoting in the middle, and then driving it back out. So that's up for you to decide which your car will succeed at better, whether you run a single late apex or a double apex. But for the single apex, typically a lighter brake pressure through the beginning phase of the corner. You're going to be headed downhill to about this point, a little past halfway through turn 8. Then there's a compression that you can get back on power. The car should gain some grip, and then you're powering uphill out to the outside here. If you're going to do the double apex, you tend to want to brake towards the middle of the track very hard, lots of brake pressure, and then as you come off the brake pressure, you will pivot into that compression, and that will allow you to put the power back down and get to that late apex, or second apex, I should say. So either one, there's a very different approach coming in. They get you to the same effect for a late apex here, and then you can use all of these access roads and all of this curb, which you'll see in our video, to let the car track out across this entire section exiting turn 8. But there is a little bit of muscle memory going on here because you can't quite see the exit until you get to it. You got to learn to trust to get on power back here as you're powering uphill to make sure you're maximizing the exit. So now we have 2 corners to go, turns 9 and 10, and really they actually drive very much like one corner. So the goal here is to get the steering angle on entry set so that you don't have to adjust the wheel much through this entire 2-corner sequence. All you're doing is kind of adjusting your speed and trajectory just a little bit while not having to adjust the wheel very much. So having come off of turn 8, we're going to get off to the left side of the track here. Now there is no good braking reference point here. It's very, very open through here. The only one that I would say is there is a corner worker station right around here. You're going to want to turn in and brake much before that. And the general rule of thumb here for turn number 9 is there's a crest across the middle of the corner right here. From the turn in to the crest is your opportunity to slow the car down. You don't need a lot of brake pressure back here, and you can really roll a lot of speed into turn 9, but the car won't be satisfied or content to start to accelerate until you clear this crest right here. So you're basically getting from turn in to crest as fast as you can. That crest also doubles as an apex, and as soon as you've cleared it, you're starting to go back downhill and you can really start to lean into the corner, get back on the accelerator, and finish off through turn 10. If you try to hustle the car too much before the crest at turn 9, you're going to add drama to this part of the corner that ultimately hurts you in this part of the corner. And the goal is to get out of turn 10 onto the long front straight as early as possible. So with all that in mind, we're going to turn in pretty early and get our braking done pretty early with very light pressure as well. This is just a balancing game to get to the crest and the apex of turn 9 as early as possible, or I should say as fast as possible. Gradually bringing the car down to this apex. As soon as you clear the crest, you can start to feed the power. The car will gain grip back, gain composure back, and you can actually track all the way out to the left using even some of the pit out or pit in road, using all this curb, any amount of track that you need here to keep the car happy. Now right here is the critical reference point. As soon as the pit out and the track diverge, there's a little curb right here. You want to kiss that curb with the left side tires and be feeding power across the apex of turn 10. Using all the curb on exit as well. So it's crest, outside road, curb, apex, curb through the rest of turn 9 and 10, trying to keep your steering all in one angle. So 2 things to keep in mind as we finish our lap coming off of turn 10. You want to use all of the red and white painted curb, but you don't want to use the solid curb behind it. That curb is actually leveled out and it pulls the car off to the left side of the track. So be very specific in using the first part of the curb, but not the second part of the curb. And lastly, the track etiquette here as pit out comes up so quickly is to continue from turn 10 back to the middle of the track and drive down the middle of the track for the first half of the straightaway, just in case someone's coming out of pit lane. So there's a lap of Putnam Park Road Course. Now let's jump inside a car and see what it looks like. So we're hopping on board at Putnam Park, and this is a K24 swapped NA Miata. So it is actually a Grid Life Touring Cup car. It's on Hoosiers, some good aero, right around 200 horsepower, so really strong power to weight, but not that fast of a car as far as horsepower goes. We'll take it for a spin. Completing the previous lap, coming up onto the front straight, there's using all of the curb, but back to the middle of the track, down this long front straightaway. It takes a while in a car with this much power, but you can see the undulations. We finally crest here towards the braking zone of turn 1. There's 3, 2, right at the 1 as we're going to brake and turn in, maximizing our speed through the corner, barely fighting the car to stay on track, a quick braking zone, and then floating that speed right back into turn 2. They very much connect. Now we're going to set up for a very late apex at turn 3. Quick dab of the brakes, crossing the hand. There's the crest, and the car will finally settle in. You see kind of fighting the wheel a bit, using the outside curve as a bumper towards turn 5. Now 3, 2, 1, braking and turning in at the 1 board, floating our speed through turn 5 using the exit curb again. Note how early we have to brake. Already on the brakes, gently braking as we don't have ABS in this car, going for a late apex and a clean acceleration off of turn number 7. Now we have options in turn 8. This car is going to run a wide high line. See how wide we are, working our way down to the middle of the track here. There's the compression. We can get on power, rotates through the uphill and using all of the curb and access roads coming off of turn number 8. Now down into turn 9, a very light brake pressure, slowly bringing the car down to the crest. Now we can start to feed power, picking up that power to the outside curb, kissing the curb with the left front, and then feeding power through turn 10 up onto the front straight. So now we're going to cut back to a different car that's going to drive turn 8 very differently. You can see the difference. So now we're hopping on board a 2010 Porsche Cayman PDK, also a Grid Life Touring Cup car, so it's prepped to the same level essentially, but the car drives very different, being a little bit more powerful, having better brakes than the Miata, and also being mid-engined. So we'll take a look at the difference in line between the two. Accelerating towards turn 8 towards Dead Bear, and note, as soon as I hit the brakes here, I also angle the car in, and I'm already in the inside portion of the track. Then it kind of hooks and it allows me to power off the corner, rotating through and using all the same exit as the Miata. But you can see almost 2 full car lengths or car widths different between the two. One car can carry the speed, the other car is good on the brakes. Make sure you're maximizing what your car can do. So those are my tips for Putnam Park. We're going to jump into our scores, and first we have our fun factor. I'm going to give Putnam Park an 8 on fun factor. I feel like this is a track you can go to in any car on any day and just enjoy lapping. It's so fast, it flows really well, and you generally get to have a lot of fun and push the car hard too, because it is fairly low risk. And that leads us perfectly into our risk factor. I'm going to give it a 3. There's really only 1 or 2 spots where you can get yourself in trouble, as it is very fast. You can go a long way when you do go off, if you go off. But other than coming onto the front straight, the last corner up against the pit wall, it's pretty tough to make a big mistake at Putnam Park. Finally, we have our technicality, and that's going to be a 5 for Putnam Park. I feel like it's a pretty easy track to figure out. It's very easy to see. There's really good sight lines with the way the elevation works for you here in most places. And overall, there's a couple of spots where you can make or break your lap time, but it's not super challenging to figure out and execute lap after lap. Flow is great, technicality, 5. So my overall score for Putnam Park is going to be a 7. Again, I feel like it's a track you can go to and have a great day every single time. You don't have to go in feeling uncomfortable with the risks you're going to take, and you can guarantee that you can send your car as hard as you want and have a lot of fun. So that does it for Putnam Park. We do offer private coaching packages here at ASM, everything from remote coaching to trackside, if you want us out there giving you some more in-depth tips when you head to Putnam Park or any other track. So get a hold of us, but otherwise I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching.